It's Diana from An Ageless Life, and today I want to talk to you about the difference in the different kinds of stress. So you may or may not realize that there are different kinds of stress. And what I mean by different kinds of stress, meaning there's good stress and there's bad stress. We don't often think about what's good and what's bad as far as stress is concerned. We kind of just throw it in the bucket of stress, but there's actually some kinds of stress that we find are helpful and really are good for us versus the kind that are bad for us, impact our mental health, give us wrinkles, belly fat, those deep dark circles under the eyes, not sleeping well, mental fog, all of the stuff we would just as soon not deal with. So I want to talk a little bit about good stress and give you some examples of those. So for me, one really good example, and for many people that are performers, this is true with them. There's this kind of stress you feel when you're getting ready to go on stage. And is it a nervousness? Is it an excitement? You kind of feel the adrenaline rush and you go out and you do your thing and you come back and you have this kind of euphoria feeling. So that is what I would call an example of good stress. You go in, you do the activity or whatever it is, you're out of it then, and your body has the opportunity to recover, or what I call repair, restore, and revitalize. It does all of the things that it needs to do to reset. And oh, by the way, because it was a fun experience, you have all of those great chemicals that were released in the brain that really impact pain levels and do things with happiness and joy and all of that. So we really want to understand good stress versus bad stress. So I gave you an example of good stress. Another example of good stress is when you work out. When you work out, you actually stress the muscle. So for example, when I'm doing weights and I'm doing this kind of thing, I am actually stressing my bicep. And because I lower it slowly, I'm really trying to figure out how to access both ways the muscle works. So I'm creating stress on that muscle. What happens is the muscle, the parts of the muscle that are not at its optimum are then broken down and new cells are put in its place. So our body rebuilds stronger and better. However, if we do too much or too long or do extreme amounts, then it actually has a negative impact on our body because we don't have the time to repair, restore, and revitalize. There's not much rebuilding, and the rebuilding is kind of haphazard. I would give the example or put it akin to building a building overnight. You cut shortcuts in order to get there, and then the building that you have may look good for a while, but after 1 or 2 or 3 or even 5 years, you start to really begin to be able to tell, there were some corners that were cut with this one. So we don't want to be in that situation. We want to give our body enough stress so that we get the good aspect of it, but we don't want so much stress that it creates the downside. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that happen with regard to the downside of having too much stress. And we're talking a lot lately about mental health and about people's well-being and what they can do to feel better or to kind of come out of this period of time that we've had where we've been very isolated, or many of the activities that we would personally do to feel better, we haven't been able to do. So I'll give myself as an example. I loved Argentine tango dance. I would do that 3, 4, 5 times during the week. Not doing that. And tango in particular is really great because it releases the touch sensation, which releases oxytocin, which has a whole lot of pleasurable sensations that it creates in the brain. So not having to do that, I have to find something else to do. But let's go back to talking about having too much stress and what that does to your body. So having too much stress means that our body is in that constant state of being, I need to run away from the tiger. Now, thousands of years ago, or even hundreds or whatever it was ago, when we had to actually run away from those kinds of things to stay alive, what would happen is our hormone levels that help us to run away and be safe would come to a peak. We get to a place where we're safe, and then they drop off, which allows the body to kind of reset itself. Our cortisol levels drop, all of those things drop, and we begin to repair, restore, and revitalize. In other words, we rebuild our body. But if we don't have that downtime, we don't have the opportunity to do those kinds of things. And I've used this analogy before. You can think of it as when we have that downtime and we're able to sleep at night because our cortisol and all those levels have dropped down enough, that's when the nighttime cleaning crew comes in. They come in, they sweep away the cells that need to be taken away. They rebuild some of the building blocks to make other things. The brain is bathed in fluid, resets the short-term memory, helps reinforce long-term memory. All of those wonderful things happen when we drop our stress level and we're able to sleep at night. If we keep that up, then it begins to impact how we think. In other words, your short-term memory becomes a little bit foggy. You can't remember things like, where did I put my keys? Or did I lock the door? Or did I turn the stove off before I left today? All of those kinds of things begin to happen. They can happen if we're distracted, but they will happen with greater frequency. You'll also find that you'll be in a situation where you're reading something and you'll go, I read that last paragraph, but I don't remember a single thing that was in it, and having to go back and read it again. So it affects attention span. You'll also find that people will, because they haven't slept and because they are stressed, develop some rather non-beneficial, I should say, habits in order to cope with stress. And one of the main ones is reaching for food. So it can be caffeine. A lot of times it is really sugary foods, something that's high in sugar, or something that is easy for your body to convert to sugar. Things that have white flour in them. I'm talking about chips and bread and rice and those kinds of things that the body says, hey, I can use this for fuel. And oh, by the way, because we're in this not sure what's going to happen in the world, I'm going to deposit that around my belly and make sure that I have a lot of insulation there in order to protect myself. And not beneficial, does a lot of things as far as having that extra fat around the middle that we don't really want. But it also really impacts our appearance. So aside from the fact that we have to have elastic pants all the time, can't get back into the ones that we had maybe 8 months ago, it also impacts how your skin looks. Your skin isn't going to look as vibrant or as beautiful. You're not going to have the energy to do the things that you want to do. You're going to notice that you have more bags under your eyes. Your skin is going to be more wrinkled. All of the things that we really are not looking forward to. So stress and being able to start to track and notice when you are stressed and what it is that you do. That is one of the main things that you can start to do today to begin to impact your stress level, is to really look at and focus on what are your stressors and what is it that you do when you're in that super stress level. So that's our discussion today about stress. But I also want to add that I do have a course coming up about stress, and I will have a masterclass before that. I'll keep you posted about information about when and where that's coming. Stay tuned. I'm super excited about it because we're all getting ready to go outside and do fun things outside. And gee, we'd like to look good and we'd like to feel good, or at least be able to get kind of into the clothes that we wore last year about this time. So more to come on that. Give me a yes if you're interested. And again, I'm going to be talking more about stress for the next couple of weeks, and really want you to be able to come into spring feeling awesome and ready for going out and enjoying it. Thanks, and bye-bye.